Now we are getting into the fundamental topic of Route 53. So Route 53 is a managed DNS, and DNS stands for Domain Name System. So what's a DNS? Well, DNS is basically going to be a collection of rules and records, and that help your clients, so your web browsers usually, to understand how to reach a server through URLs. And so in AWS, you have four most common records. You have the A record, that is a URL to IPv4. You have the quadruple A record for URL to IPv6, CNAME for URL to URL, and alias for URL to AWS resource. So you should know about these four, just make a note of them, they're very important. So you may be asking, how does it work, a DNS? Like, I don't even see it. Well, because you don't see it, I'm going to show you a diagram. Here is my web browser, and I want to access my application server, but I don't know the IP of the application server. So I'm going to use Route 53, and I'm going to say, I want to go to myapp.mydomain.com. And Route 53 is aware of what that is. And it says, okay, it's an A record, so it's mapping a URL to an IP, and you're asking for myapp.mydomain.com, and I'll send you back the IP 32.45.67.85. And that's the IP you should use to reach your server. Now my web browser says, oh, that's cool, thanks. And it makes an HTTP request using the same domain name, but this time it knows to go directly to the application server, and the application server sends back the HTTP response. Now, because the DNS requests don't happen at every request, they get cached, so my web browser will know that now myapp.mydomain.com is my IP 32, etc., etc. And so basically my web browser now goes straight to my application server. So that's how it works for A record, but it works similarly for a quadruple A record, for a CNAME, or for an alias record. And so all these things don't have to be implemented by your web browser or anything. They just work out of the box. Every web browser knows how to work with the DNS. Okay, but this is how, at a high level, how Route 53 helps with routing requests from URLs to IPs or other URLs. So overall, Route 53 can use public domains, so you have to own them or buy them, and we'll see this in the next lecture, or private domains, and you can just create whatever domain you want, and these private domains will only be resolvable within your VPC, so within your instances. Whereas public domains, as the name indicates, they're public, so anyone can resolve them, such as google.com. So Route 53 will have advanced features, such as load balancing through DNS, and that's also called client-side load balancing, health checks, but they're quite limited, and routing policy. So there's simple routing policy, failover, geolocation, geoproximity, latency, and weighted. And honestly, I don't think you should know about them for this exam, but still know that basically you can route based on wherever your server are located in the world, or what is the closest with the minimal latency, or you can even perform a weighted balancing. So by basically saying, I want this amount of traffic to go to this instance and this other amount of traffic to go to that other instance. Overall, and that's quite popular, if you have an AWS resource and you want to build a CNAME for it, well, you don't do that. You actually use alias records because they're meant for AWS to be used better. And so it's performance reasons. So use alias records over CNAME for AWS resources. And we'll see this in the very next lecture as well. So overall, Route 53, I would say, is not much used in the certified developer exam. Still, I want you to know about it. So what I want you to know is all the record types. So A, quadruple A, CNAME, and alias, super important. And then you should know to use alias records over CNAME for AWS resources. So that's it for the overview. We'll just go into hands-on to see how in practice how it works, but that's it. See you in the next lecture.